The Spin-Off Podcast Network.
Talofa lava. I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spin-Off. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spin-Off member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
You're listening to Business is Boring, a podcast that reckons it's anything but. Business is Boring is brought to you by Spark Lab, offering inspiration and practical advice to help businesses find their edge. To hear more about Spark Lab, including details about the latest events, workshops, and business tools, visit sparklab.co.nz. And now, here's your host, Simon Pound.
Kia ora koutou katoa and welcome to Business is Boring. Marisa Fong co-founded Madison Recruitment and grew it to be the largest independent agency and to a big sale in 2013. In the years since, Marisa has been a leader supporting other leaders through outfits like the Entrepreneurs Organisation, Flying Kiwis, Global Women and New Zealand Asian Leaders, and highly active as an investor and director of great companies like Weirdly that we've spoken to, and currently the chair of the board at Simplicity KiwiSaver. Marisa joins us now to chat her journey. Tēnā koe.
Oh, morena.
Hey, thanks so much for being in here. Really excited to chat a little bit about recruitment and your journey today. So tell me, how did you get into that industry in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think a lot of recruitment consultants will relate to this. You kind of go into somewhere for an interview and you're looking for a job and you're looking at the other person on the other side of the desk and you think, I could do that job. I'm sure of it. So I thought, I like what that's about, and did a bit of research. And I think I must have been really keen because I actually applied myself to finding out what what characteristics, strength, traits, whatever, needed to be a great recruitment consultant. So I went and asked a lot of people, and the first thing they said was, it's not about just liking people, it's actually about sales. And I thought, oh yeah, well, what does that mean? Because, I was pretty young at the time. And really what it came down to was the ability to influence others. And so I thought, well, I'll go and really go and pitch myself, and that's what I did. Applied to all these jobs, didn't have any experience, basically got knocked back quite a few times, but I must have been really, really keen on doing it, because I kept on trying. And then finally some small little company gave me a chance, and I was really good at it. Like, I really, sales is a weird, kind of almost dirty word, especially back then, it was like, oh no, sales, But actually I reframed that, and this before I knew about things like reframing. And it was really about deciding, why am I doing this? Do I believe in it? And I really did like wanting to help companies and people finding the best matches. And so I ended up doing it and was really good at it, and then moved up pretty quick.
How does the industry work? As you've mentioned sales, and it's also super about relationships, hey, because you need to be able to know lots of people and keep lots of people and connect with people quickly. And I guess kind of like there's an element of matchmaking and kind of intuition about where people are going to fit as well, hey?
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the things that I've realised I'm really good at is reading situations and understanding, being able to read the room and get a feel for the vibe of the company. And so I think most people, when you walk into a business or a company, you get a pretty quick feel for what that company's about. And this is this intangible thing that people talk about all the time, right? Like culture. So what is culture, So when you walk into somewhere, you can pretty much feel it. And I think it was something that I was really good at. I could walk into a reception area, meet the receptionist back in the day when, that was the way it used to work. And you'd meet the hiring manager, you'd get a pretty quick feel for what they were about, what their values were, and a lot of the languaging that they were using, but did they really mean it? So then you were thinking, okay, what kind of person would fit with this person, and what did they need? And how self-aware were they, and often, you kind of find some people were and you knew they'd be great to work for, and other people you go, oh, this guy's going to be tough, or this woman's going to be a bit tough. So you kind of know you got to find somebody who's really resilient, And all that kind of intangible stuff, the stuff that made the magic happen, because all this hard skill stuff was easy, right? They'd say, oh, I need this, accounting skill or blah, 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 this qualification, that kind of stuff. Back in the day, it was easy, not that easy now. And so, it is about relationships. It's about demonstrating that understanding of that kind of match thing that makes... Because you're the unspoken stuff, like the people that are really articulate can maybe tell you, but the people that maybe just don't really know what they want, and it's really being able to work out for them and bringing it together. And so when you get a few good fits and you start to get a level of trust, really making sure that you're working for the benefit of both sides of the coin. And that's that being met in a sandwich type thing, right? So... yeah, I used to equate it a little bit like real estate agents. It's a very similar thing. You've got the person that pays for your service and the person that doesn't, but you've got to kind of make sure they're mutually happy.
Yeah, but unlike real estate agents, you only kind of keep growing and keep getting clients if it sticks and they keep coming back to you. Hey, so there's a real...
yeah, exactly.
And how does the industry work? Because I think when people first start learning about recruitment and find out that, like, sometimes when someone's placed, it's like 30% of their income or 3 months of salary or something, and people go, whoa, that seems like a lot of cash. So, how does it all work and why are there those numbers?
Well, I guess the issue is that when you most recruitment consultants work on a contingent basis, right? And so that basically what that means, I don't know many jobs where you kind of do something for free before you don't get paid until you get a result. And most, consultants, even services, you kind of pay for the service as they're going along. And so there's no guarantee of outcome because you might be working on something really hard and then the client might have given it to some other recruitment consultants as well. And so it's a really the person that gets the best match quickest, and you've got to really – so unless you've got a really great relationship, because we kind of didn't really like working like that, it was pretty much a bit of a gamble. So that's probably why the high fee basis, because there's no guarantee. And so you've got these – You've got people you're paying on salaries and this kind of thing, working for, no money yet. And so you got to recover that in the win. And so if you think about it, if you worked on 10 assignments and you only filled 4 or 3, you've wasted a lot of other time on the other 7, and the person that's paying you, or you yourself, you've got to get paid somehow for the non-productive work. So that's kind of where those fee structures come in, and it's high. Yeah, it is. It might be a better model, and if there are models out there that recruitment consultants and agencies have worked to, which is more a retained basis, or the company says, look, we don't like it like that, but we'll just pay you an hourly rate. So there are new models now. It's not just that sort of success fee.
Yeah. But people complain about it, but then they go, oh, it can't be that hard. I'll just inbox some people and do it. And then they quickly find out that it's actually really hard.
It's really hard.
They go back to pay. And now that you're not kind of working in recruitment day to day, you can probably, dish on it a bit more than people who are in there. But you must have some really good weeks when, everything lands and you're like, woohoo! But then there must be some lean weeks too.
Well, the thing is, you're dealing with people, right? And any industry profession where you're dealing with people is your key commodity almost. You don't want to call them commodities, but you're basically dealing with people and then your product. And of course, people are not always straight with you, right? So, you think you're going on the right track, you think you're doing the right stuff, and you really have got something great for this person, and then, they ring up and go, oh, thanks for that job offer from that client, but I know I'm going somewhere else. I've got this other job offer. And, if you're a good consultant and you've got good relationships, typically, hopefully that won't happen because you've got some really great trust with that candidate, and same with the client. But sometimes people just do lie. And so
keeping their options open.
Keeping their options open, and you get it, right? You can't get angry about it. Sometimes it just happens. But, it is a tough industry. So you've got to be a certain kind of person. You've got to be really resilient. resilient, right? Like really, really resilient, and really like people and forgive people for that crap and just move on. Because if you kind of get hung up on it and you get all sort of, upset and angsty about it, you'd never survive it. You'd never survive it.
Yeah. So you came into the industry and then co-founded Madison Recruitment and built that up over, 10 to 15 years?
Yeah.
And then built it up into the largest independent in the country. So what was that journey like growing the business?
Yeah, it was an interesting thing because we didn't have that plan. It wasn't a planned thing to go, we're going to grow this business from the get-go into something really big. It wasn't. It was fairly... I think we were. It was really success-based. The more success we experienced, the more we had to grow because you can't really stand still, and so we started off, two of us, Winnis and I, and she's brilliant, great business partner to have, and we were, very determined to do things well. So quality was really important to us, and to do what we said we were going to do, and to treat candidates with respect and dignity, because and it happens all the time. They were saying, consultants, recruitment consultants, they never get back to you, they don't tell you what's happening, they don't keep you updated. So we were like, no, we can do this differently, right? And so I think it really was based around just kind of basic stuff, quality, communication, being good to deal with, not getting antsy about stuff. And so we just kept growing. And interestingly enough, when we first started, we were like, I think executive recruitment's going to be really fun because they seem to have so much, time, and they go golfing on Fridays and they take their clients out and you kind of only work from, 9 till whatever. And so we thought, we'll do executive recruitment, even though neither of us had really been in that space before. So we've started off that way. And we realised, oh no, that's too slow for us. That's too boring. And so we actually ended up going into, back in those times, call centres were really big and being established. So we ended up working in the call centre space and recruiting high volumes of people. And one of the things that we didn't realise was we were building IP around amazing processes about how to recruit for large numbers quickly and still retain value and deliver value and great quality people. So it was all around our psychometric testing. It was all around all that kind of, literacy, numeracy testing, so that we were really delivering cream of the cream, even at, kind of like customer service levels and temps and all sorts. So that got us a reputation and a niche. And then we were winning big projects. And I think because I'd worked for a big company beforehand, a big global company, I behaved as though I was still working for a big company, even though we were a small one. So we pitched for big contracts and, didn't think that we shouldn't because we were small, and we would win them. And when you win a big contract, then you've got to gear up and hire more people and, do the delivery and make sure that you can deliver to what you said you were going to. And so we grew really fast. We grew really fast. Year on year, it was something like 150 to 200% year on year for years. And so we outgrew our offices within, we had this tiny freaking little office in O'Connell Street, which was hilarious because it was this tiny little room and it had this old-fashioned elevator lift, and it would, downstairs they used to store fruit and veggies for the restaurant across the road. And, of course, the chefs used to go over there during their breaks and just have a little bit quiet little doobie. And then the fruit flies that were kind of, down there would kind of come up the shaft, the lift shaft, slightly, and come into the office. And it used to drive me mad. But anyway, it was good times, but we outgrew that really fast and just kept on going. And so I think the thing was, just as much as we were supporting our clients with growth, we also looked at the way we did things internally. And so before all these things were buzzwords like culture, values, that kind of stuff, we had some really clear tenets about how we were going to operate. So things like, treat our candidates the way we would like to be treated, always communicate with our clients to make sure that our clients knew where we were at with their assignment, and deal with each other the way we'd like to be dealt with, And those were just very three core basic things we lived to. And I guess that really helped us manage the way we internally dealt with each other and grew, and it made it a safe space. I think now, I mean, we didn't know these terms back then, right, about psychological safety and being in a safe space, but that's basically what we were creating. And then the other thing was just having lots of fun. We just were all about, laughing and having a good time, and then working really hard and working hard together when things got tough. We were really busy and things were tough and high pressure. So, Winnis and I were like, well, we're not going to not do anything that we don't expect you to do. So we were like, we were on a tea towel rotation. We'd take the tea towels home to wash, and we were on a schedule. Stuff like that. That meant we were all in. So yeah.
And having built that company up, you exited in 2013 for what was a big exit at 2013. Tell me about the decision to, having built up something that, was your own culture and was your own kind of place. What was it like that, deciding to sell that?
Yeah, it wasn't kind of an intentional thing. We didn't go and say one day, okay, right, we're over this, we're going to sell it. I think what we got to was after, I remember the 2008 GFC, and it was pretty tough, and we were 10 years old at that time. And so we were like, oh, this is getting hard. It's tough. And we went through some, we didn't necessarily decline. We were in very good space in terms of diversified services and revenue lines and all that kind of stuff. So we were actually doing okay. But I think we realised, look, we need new expertise in the business. We need new ideas. We need new blood. And so we brought on we had an advisory board, and on that advisory board we had a great person we thought would be a really good perhaps incoming COO, CEO, and so he actually came in on a contract basis, and once we sort of felt yes, he was the right fit and had the right value sets, we then put him into the CEO role. And he kind of put out a little bit of an article, and it was a bit of a fishing kind of lure thing, saying one day, we may, I know Winnis and Marisa will be thinking about an exit. Well, like, next minute, there was this approach, right? So it was a bit earlier than we had anticipated, and so it wasn't really a very planned kind of exit. It was very much that they had approached us. We entertained discussions. We had actually been approached quite a few times before, and we weren't ready. We still saw lots of potential and growth. But once we realised that actually, we are interested in something new and looking at new stimulus, new ideas, then we thought, okay, well, let's see what these guys have got to say. And so we had discussions on and off for quite a while, actually. It took us over 2 years, for 2 years of kind of yes and no. And, they were a listed company, so they wanted to give us scrip and, as well as cash. And we were like, no, we don't want scrip. We'll just want cash. So so that's why it took quite a while until finally we settled on a number and we were happy. Yep.
That's awesome. And we'll be back in a minute with Marisa Fong to hear about helping other leaders lead governance and angel investing. Spark is proud to partner with the Sustainable Business Network and the Climate Action Toolbox. The free Climate Action Toolbox can provide you with simple step-by-step guides to measure and reduce your emissions. Help lead the way to a low-carbon future for New Zealand. Visit sparklab.co.nz/sustainability to find out more.
Ready to rediscover the joys of cycling? With over 300 kilometres of cycle paths across Tāmaki Makaurau, jumping on your bike and going for a ride is such a fun way to discover the city from a different perspective. Cycling is getting more and more popular across Auckland, so now's a great time to join the hype and give cycling a go. Head to at.govt/cycling to find your nearest cycleway today.
Raising capital or taking your business to the world? Investment Fix has the lowdown on everything you need to make it happen. This season, we're exploring the US market, the opportunities it offers, what it takes to grow a business there, and the best way to approach investors. Join some of the superstars of the investment and business world as they share advice from their time in the US so you can make your mahi count in this massive market. The Investment Fix podcast, brought to you by Invest New Zealand. Tune in today.
And we're back with Marisa Fong. So, hey, You've then gone on to be super active in leadership, especially in organisations supporting women and diverse and Asian New Zealanders in business. Tell us about moving into that role from having had that successful exit and built that big company.
I guess when you've been rowing your own canoe, you don't realise as women as that there are challenges for other women because you are the decision maker, you are the person at the top. And so when we had our company, we really didn't understand this kind of narrative. And to be honest, we were so busy growing the company, we weren't, and our company was woman dominated, female dominated. So I guess we never really saw the problem. And so it was only as I exited and then realised, actually, my experience is not the same as other people's experience, and I got involved in Professional, which was through someone I met, and they asked me to chair it. And so when I actually listened to the experiences of other women where, they were encountering quite different issues in corporates, typically corporates, and that were not necessarily female-dominated, maybe at sort of 7 different levels, but at the upper echelons, very much male-dominated. And so, and having issues trying to scale and get up or climb up those ladders. So when I realised that actually they are actually issues for other women, I thought, no, this is not right. How do we stop that? How do we get better at elevating women, and so that they don't exit? Because there is all the research says, at a certain level, they'll get to a certain level, and then they look up and they go, ooh, that's not for me, and they exit, and they'll either go into a boutique firm, or they'll do their own thing, or they just sort of say, no, that's all, they'll just stay at wherever they are and not want to aspire to get any further ahead. And I think women, and having more women in leadership, and all the research tells you, is better for the organisation, right? So what could we do? And so that's how I got involved. And I just thought, we need to better advance the conversation and actually have things that work. So what I know about myself is I'm not very good at lots of the talking. I'm really wanting to see practical solutions and how do we actually make things happen. So although I'm membership of all these things, I think that the best way I can help is actually create tools or ways that women can actually be seen. And so Professional did a really great thing. They created this thing called group mentoring. And it was really a 1 mentor to 5 mentees. And you could do it within an organisation, and we had some really great companies do it, have a trial and have a go at it, and they got some great results. So what we were seeing was that women in a mentee situation could support each other and learn from each other as well as the mentor. And having 1 to 5 meant that you weren't, having this kind of very limited scaled impact. And I love, a lot of organisations really do mean well. But I think this 1-to-1 where we're just elevating one woman at a very high cost, something like, we'll send this woman on a $30,000, leadership program. It's fine, but it's just the impact is kind of limited. It takes a long time to get a lot of 1-to-1 programs. How many women can we afford to pay $30,000 to go and do? So this 1 to 5, when we had 5 groups together, that's 25 or 30 at one time, made sense to me. So the more we can get this one-to-many type situation where we can elevate women, it makes a big difference. And then there's, the startup community, which I just also love. The more women we can get into enterprise and doing something interesting and growing their own canoes like I did is something that's also really interesting to me as well.
Because recruitment is quite an unusual industry in that it is woman-dominated, and yet it doesn't have, like many woman-dominated industries, systemically poor pay rates and terrible conditions,
yes.
And if you look at nursing and teaching and, rest home support and all these areas, and you go, oh, well, that's pretty shit.
Yeah, because it's typically not if you look at any organisation that's run by women or owned by women, that hopefully typically isn't the case. But unfortunately, you get these kind of norms that have been around historically, forever. And so, we do need to change it. Because I don't know, if you've ever been in a hospital, if you've ever been, the work they do is incredible, right? So and as we learned through the pandemic, wow, how would we have done without those core essential people doing amazing things in hospitals? So we really seem to have got something wrong there, just fundamentally wrong, And so from a commercial perspective, when you've got women working in recruitment, and they were often the primary breadwinners, and if they were in a family situation, so that was wonderful for us because we were really seeing that empowerment. But that's on a very commercial basis, right? That's a very commercial role. Why is that not the same?
It's bananas.
It is bananas, and especially teaching, education, health.
It's the only real work in the world is things like nursing, looking after elders.
Yeah, and it's not like they don't need qualifications. It's not like they don't need to do intensive study. So how did that happen,
Yeah. And in the startup space, as you just mentioned there is the possibility to kind of like, in a new space, make new rules. Hey,
yeah.
Tell us about kind of where you got into angel investment and what kind of things you bring to that and do.
Yeah, I guess with angel investing, it was... So, there's this kind of thing about gambling money, right? Like, some people go to Sky City and do a bit of gambling there. I'm like, no, I'm going to do something. My gamble will be in the startup space because really it is a gamble, And so what I decided was I was going to look at my net worth and go, okay, I'm going to carve out a percentage of my net worth, which is roughly around 10%. And I'm going to use that to invest in startups to see if I can help, these, and typically try to support women-led startups. So my first one, and I fell into, was because someone approached me. Obviously, what happens is when you go through a big exit, suddenly your name's on a hit list, right?
You get a lot of emails.
Yeah, you get a lot of approaches, and I hadn't realised this was the case. I'd never had an exit before, so woo. And then suddenly you're getting all these calls, and so I fell into it because I got approached and got presented a huge number of, and there was one particular enterprise that I thought was really, really had legs and really liked the founder, and she was, passionate and really smart and all this kind of thing. So and really went into it blindly, not knowing anything about angel investing. I look back now and it's just horrors, really. I go, oh my God, what was I thinking? But actually, it was a really great learning, and it was an expensive learning, trust me, because, in the end it didn't go anywhere. But what it was for me was learning. It was a really great on-the-job learning about what angel investing is and isn't. And things like, just basic stuff like, you might put your initial money in, but understand that enterprise is going to need more follow-on. And so just really basic stuff. And we're talking, quite a while ago now. So I think it's really moved on. Angel investing's moved on, and a lot of people are a lot more savvy about it and get educated about it because there's a lot more, opportunities and ways to learn about it, and people are to teaching. But I think back then it was, buyer beware and just learn as you go.
Yeah. The whole industry has matured a lot over the last 10 years
definitely.
As well, hasn't it, in terms of how investors can add value past money and not get as, because the return rates for the first kind of 5 to 10 years were not great for investors.
No, and also I guess
it was more kind of benign. Like gifting, really, benevolence.
Yes, it was, and I guess there was a two-way street, both for the startup person and then both had to learn. You had to really understand what were the dangers and risks and what were the benefits, and then also have to just have this mindset of what, it's money you've got to be prepared to lose. And what's really interesting for me is when I first started, I was like, no, I'm a conviction investor. I'm not going to do this kind of piddly $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 here and there. I'm going to go all in with six figures, So that's what I was doing, And for some that I still believe in that, and others I go, what, I don't know enough about that industry, but happy to just kind of put a small sum in there and just do a bit of it. So really it's horses for courses, looking at what do you believe in, what do you really feel where do you feel financially that you can commit, and why? Why would you put in 6 figures there and then maybe, just 10 grand there or 50 grand there, which, to me is, will it make a material difference, and so I'm really about trying to make a material difference in something I believe in, and all the time knowing that I could lose that money. Right, so you've just got to be really balanced about that, because what I get a bit annoyed about is when investors put in, seriously for me, it's like, I'll put in 20, 30, 40,000, and then they're all over that company, and I'm like, wow, that money really didn't make a material difference, and yet your expectation of what those people should do for you, jump through hoops and all this kind of stuff, if I was that entrepreneur, I'd be really annoyed and resentful, and that's what ends up happening. The demands sometimes are unrealistic and don't match what you've actually done for that, that investment, that vehicle. So I'm kind of like, you're better to go into one of those fund ones, right, and just go, put your 50 grand in there and then just leave it and let someone else manage the relationship.
And having been a founder, you'd know what it's like to have people trying to get in your ear, I guess, and whether it's helpful or not.
Yeah.
And tell me about governance. As you've done a lot with the governance and directorship, and still doing a lot there in that space, including being chair of Simplicity KiwiSaver, which, it's one of the most remarkable success stories in the financial space in the country.
Yeah. And that's, down to Sam's vision, and, obviously he's really passionate. And, he pokes a few bears and, gets in people's, and, particularly recently with some of the stuff around simplicity living. I just need to make clear that I'm chair for the giving, the trust, which actually technically owns the KiwiSaver management arm, which does all the kind of, fund management. So I'm not on that board, but I think that was an opportunity for me to step into a role that I really felt that was doing such amazing work, philanthropically, it's my give back. So there's a couple of chair roles that I do as a give back, and then there's a couple that are more commercial. So one is an advisory board in the recruitment space, and shout out to 84 Recruitment, who, I just think are doing some amazing things. Mark Fisher, he when you look at recruitment companies and, the kind of variation between quality and values and that stuff. And I really support Mark's company because of what he has put in place and has mirroring that whole culture belief and what they're about. So I'm on advisory board there, but also on the publicly listed company. I really didn't want to be chair for a long time for boards. I was happy to kind of be on the board but not take the chair role. And you question why. I think a lot of it's down to, do I want the responsibility? And also, am I capable? And also, would I be a target, And so in the end, I ended up stepping up to these roles recently because I realised actually being a chair is actually quite an interesting role. A good chair makes huge difference to the board, and I actually realised I'm really good at it. And it's a really funny thing for women to actually acknowledge when they're good at something. Typically we're all trying to be, oh no, or shucks, not me, don't. And so actually stepping into that has been for me a big realisation that actually just own what you're good at and don't apologise for it and just do it, And so recently I've gone, I am good at this. Gosh, just get on with it and just step up and take it on, and do it.
But like you mentioned there with being a target and the responsibility, I guess having to pick the things that you work with really carefully, there is so much responsibility in being a director, isn't there?
Yeah, and especially when you've got someone, who's got a personality like Sam, he's out there saying stuff and you're like, oh, okay, is that okay? Oh,
he's great, eh?
Yeah, oh. But he's got good intention and he really is doing some stuff that's quite disruptive. And I think when you're doing that sort of stuff, you got to expect that people will react, you know. And I think in New Zealand we don't like conflict typically, so I think we shy away from it, but sometimes it doesn't serve us. And I think we do need people like Sam who are just going to, you know, get out there and make change. And you know, not everyone will like it, and that's fine. And I think for me, as long as it's in the right way and it's not, you know, doing anything that's it's silly and saying the wrong things, then and doing the wrong things, then I'm okay with it, you know. And so as a chair, I'm there to sort of say, okay, well, you know, is this still aligned with what we believe? Are we doing the right stuff in the right way? And so that role sits comfortably with me on simplicity. Yep.
A couple of questions we ask everyone. One is what advice you give to people who are starting business today. And as someone who is working with a bunch of startups and talking to people in that space, what is the advice that you're giving these founders you're backing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm mentoring a few people. I have mentored lots of women, and I am mentoring somebody at the moment. And, you know, I think about, you know, when I look at people, often we don't know how good we are. And there's lots of doubt and lots of, you know, second-guessing ourselves. And so there's a lot of research that talks about gut instinct and how much that actually is not just this kind of intangible thing. It's actually based on real a collection of experiences, right? So really trusting your gut, you know, and knowing that actually having that confidence in yourself that you actually know what you're doing. Because otherwise you wouldn't have fallen into whatever it or have an intention to start something. And I think the other thing is really know your values. Like, what are your values? What are the non-negotiables about values? Because when you understand what that is, then you know who to surround yourself with. Because if they're not aligned to your values, it's just going to make life too hard because you're always battling this kind of conflict between value sets, right? And so having a clear understanding what those values look like for you and how you want to see them lived around you, and just really basic practical stuff like really understanding what your liquidity is going to be, like where are you going to get capital, how are you going to grow, what will be your limitations, and then just I look, you know, people say, try to live this balanced life. I don't know many entrepreneurs that are living a hugely balanced life, you know. When you start off, you really just have to keep, because it's just this kind of momentum, building a momentum, right? But even in doing that, I think when I look back at my time, and you know, and Madison grew so fast, just keeping perspective about what it is you're doing. And I had this really great client who worked at TVNZ. He was HR director there, so this was quite a long time ago now, so not currently going through the situation they're going through, which is unfortunate. But anyway, and he said, I think there was some mess up and something, and I rang to apologise and said, oh, look, you know, I've made a mistake and this has happened. And he said, and one thing I'll always remember, he said, did anyone die? I went, no, because I was devastated. I don't like making mistakes. You know, he said, well, did anyone die? I went, no. He said, well, it's okay then, isn't it? It's just a mistake and we'll move on. I went, okay. And so I think, I know it's a crazy question, but, you know, when you are in the midst of things and you're so entrenched in stuff, you sometimes lose perspective. And so sometimes I go, well, I sometimes feel like saying to people, just step back and go, did anyone die? No, okay, we can recover from this, you know. And so just keeping perspective on where you're at, why you're doing what you're doing, and trying to still have fun, because when it's all happening, you know, that key person you had decided to resign, you know, I mean, you know, we just know how awful that is. But going, you know what, this too shall pass, and having a really good support network around you.
Love it. And what will success be for you?
Well, interestingly enough, I'm looking at, you know, just this, you know, looking at these amazing entrepreneurs who grow and scale businesses. And, you know, when you first start something, it's quite easy, well, not easy, but you can surround yourself with that first group of really wonderful people that see your vision, believe in what you're doing, and they all sign up and they're all along on the journey with you. But as you grow, what's really interesting, you need to then bring on people around that maybe you don't have direct line of sight to, that your people around you have to hire and manage. And it's an interesting space because, of course, I call it the valley of death. You've gone from boutique and then you want to scale up to big. And in their middle, I call the valley of death. So it's things like, do you have the cash? Do you have the right people? Can you lead? Can you lead your people through so that they can lead their people? And that's a really tough space to be in, because often the people that maybe you surround yourself with don't maybe have the leadership skills. They have the execution skills. That's why you've got them, right? They're really good doers. They can deliver on your vision. They do the doing. So then you've got to say to them, well, you've got to move them to that level where they have to then do the same thing that you've been doing with them, and that's showing them a vision, a leadership, And sometimes those people don't have those skills. So how do we get people at that next level to become leaders as well? And some of the things that I've seen that companies struggle with that. They don't have people that are really great at bringing people alongside. So I think there's a space for that, in the consulting world. There's lots of consultants and, I don't want to add to that consultant pool. But really, I feel like there's a really wonderful thing that if we could bring everyone into that leadership, great leadership, then, the multiplier effect of that on the New Zealand business and entrepreneur scene and the business scene would be huge, and so, turning doers into great leaders as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. And like you say, you've been doing so much of that levelling up of people in one-to-one and group ways, really scaling that up.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us today. That's Marisa Fong. Kia ora. So thank you to Marisa Fong, to you for listening, and for everyone who helps make this happen, like our producer, Jacob Edmonds. Do follow Business is Boring wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to rate and leave a review if you like what we do. And keep an eye out for Going Global in your Business is Boring feed, our new podcast with NZTE. E noho rā.
From the Spin-Off Podcast Network, that was Business is Boring, brought to you by SparkLab. Make sure you're following Business is Boring wherever you get your podcasts. And for more information on SparkLab, visit sparklab.co.nz.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, podcast manager at The Spin-Off. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spin-Off member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
The Spin-Off Podcast Network.